Donald Trump has reportedly fired KRISTI Noem, and there's numerous reasons being given. He is appointing Senator Markwayne Mullin to take over the DHS. We'll see if he gets confirmed or how this is going to play out. John Fetterman says he's in favor of it. And KRISTI Noem is moving over to be a special envoy for the Shield for the Americas, which I have no idea what that is. So we'll learn all about it. So it's going to be interesting. And this shakeup comes after rumors were circulating following what went down in Minnesota that Trump was considering firing KRISTI Noem. I didn't believe it because it's so difficult to get a confirmation through that it seemed easier just to have someone else do the job while she is still the head of DHS. But I guess Trump finally said no. One of the other stories is that when she's at this congressional testimony hearing, she says she did this $200 million ad campaign with Trump's knowledge. And then Trump got all pissed, like, I had no idea she was going to spend $200 million on commercials. And she did. And so it seems like he's pretty upset about that. We're going to talk about that. Plus, we got a bunch of other news. Leaked group chats coming out of the Miami GOP in which many Republicans say, let's call it untoward things. Racist things and racial slurs and all that stuff you'd expect from a group chat from a bunch of guys, I guess, who are Republicans. I'd be curious about what you'd get from a Democrat group chat. Probably a bunch of grooming or something. I don't know. We'll talk about that stuff. And then we've got an interesting story that's now getting a little bit more steam. A suspected insider who's on track to make $100,000 this month in the prediction markets, accurately predicting U.S. military action, for which the individual has predicted the U.S. is going to enter Iran. U.S. troops are going into Iran by the end of this month. Now, there's some nuance here. Some people are saying this proves it's going to happen because you've got somebody with insider information making a lot of money, $100,000 in a month. My argument's a little different. I think this person's just speculating and then selling their position before it actually gets to that point. So we'll see. We'll break down this story. And then there's a crazy, crazy story. Seth Moulton brought an illegal immigrant to the State of the Union, and the individual is a person of interest in abuse of a minor. Like, it's a really crazy story. We're going to talk about that, my friends, and, of course, a whole lot more. Before we do, we got a great sponsor for you guys. It is Beam Dream. Head over to shopbeam.com/Timpool. Pick up your nighttime sleep blend to support better sleep. It is a delicious cup of hot cocoa. You take a little spoonful, you put it in your hot water, you stir it up, you drink it before bed. It's got L-theanine, it's got reishi, melatonin, magnesium, all the stuff that's going to help you sleep better. And it's only 15 calories, no added sugar. It's got a bunch of different flavors. And my friends, I swear by the stuff. I drink it every single night. Not an exaggeration. Cinnamon cocoa is my favorite. Put a little cream in it. Makes it nice and delicious right before bed. Keeps you hydrated, gets you the magnesium you need. And the most important thing is for the guys out there, your body produces testosterone and HGH while you are in deep and REM sleep. So you need to make sure your sleep is good. Otherwise, you're going to be upset, lethargic, fat, lazy. You're not going to know why you're feeling bad, especially as you're getting older. Take care of your sleep. Check out shopbeam.com/Timpool now. And don't forget to go to castbrew.com and pick up pool water. That's right. If you ever want to drink pool water, something is wrong with you. But if you ever want to drink my pool branded water, it is pure, healthy, delicious artesian water. And it comes in a can now. And you guessed it, those cans are lined with plastic. And we're not really proud of that, but that's the reality of all cans. And so my general understanding is that basically every metal, drink holder is going to have some kind of plastic lining in it. But hey, it's still better than a plastic bottle or, whatever. So pick it up at castbrew.com if you want to get some pool water and have fun with it. Don't forget to also smash that like button. Share the show with everyone you have ever met in your life. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more, we got Clinton Ohlers.
Hi, great. Thanks. Great to be here, Tim. I'm Clinton Ohlers. I've got a PhD in focused on history of science from the University of Pennsylvania, and I represent a company called Safe Blood. We're working hard to make the blood supply as safe as it can possibly be, and you can check us out at safeblood.com.
Right on. Well, should be interesting. Got a lot to talk about, especially in the uncensored portion of the show. Should be fun. But let's just get started. Jump right into the news. We got this from CNN. Trump fires KRISTI Noem as frustrations build among White House officials and GOP lawmakers. According to NBC News, following up, they make reference to her place in the administration had become increasingly unstable following the fatal shooting of 2 U.S. citizens by federal officers during immigration operations in Minneapolis earlier this year, and amid her fraying relationship with the U.S. Coast Guard and other reported infighting at Homeland Security. Her firing by the president on Thursday in an online post comes after weeks of bad press. So here's what Trump had to say. He said, I thank Kristi for her service. He said great things about her and that she will be moving to be special envoy for the Shield of the Americas, our new security initiative in the Western Hemisphere. We're announcing on Saturday in Doral, Florida. And then he's calling on undefeated professional MMA fighter Markwayne Mullin to take over the DHS. And then, of course, I believe the governor of Oklahoma is going to choose to appoint a senator in the interim, which should be interesting because we'll probably get a rhino. I don't know. But I didn't think he was going to fire her. Getting Markwayne Mullin approved by the Senate, it seems increasingly difficult to pull off.
Yeah.
Unless they give us like a tepid establishment guy and the Democrats just go, I guess I'll vote for him.
The Democrats don't want to say yes to anything that Trump does. As for KRISTI Noem, I was thinking that was going to happen right around all of the hubbub in Minneapolis. The messaging that was coming out around that was really bad. She could have made that whole situation something that didn't get the attention that it did. Yeah. They could have handled it far better because honestly, the activities that the police were engaging on, the ICE agents and the federal agents were engaging on the ground, they weren't particularly excessive. They were dealing with people that were doing all they could to interfere with legal law enforcement with
help from local police.
Yeah, no help from local police. All that stuff, it didn't have to escalate the way that it did. And KRISTI Noem's messaging made nothing better. So personally, I was saying at the time I thought that she was going to go. And honestly, I'm a little surprised it took this long.
Well, why won't the rest of them go? Huh? What about all of them?
All of them who? Everybody.
DOJ as well.
Well, I mean, look, Dan Bongino left out of his own volition. And as for, the other people like Kash Patel and stuff like that, I don't know that Kash Patel isn't doing a good job. I know that there are people that are upset with the way that he characterized the things that he said that he saw with the Epstein stuff. But I do think that Pam Bondi is doing a less than stellar job. Her actual messaging and stuff is kind of rough. So, I mean,
more people thought she would go first.
Yeah. If Trump sent her away, I wouldn't be surprised. But I think that because of the kinetic action that was going on in Minneapolis, that's why I wasn't surprised that KRISTI Noem went. As for Pam Bondi, I think that he probably could do better. But again, it's tough for him to get anyone approved. So he has to think, if I get rid of this person, who am I going to get that the Senate is actually going to confirm? Because they're not helping him out at all.
It feels like people are growing, at least I'm growing increasingly more. We talked about this the other day about how increasingly difficult it is. Everything gets stonewalled. Everything gets blocked. Congress can't get anything passed. And people are growing increasingly more kind of just frustrated with the way things are going. Obviously, the left is frustrated because they don't like anything that's going on right now because it's their job to push back. And the right is angry on different levels because, people that consider themselves America First are fighting with people who are establishment Republicans because nobody can seem to get anything through. Can't get the SAVE Act passed, right? That's still out.
But it's anarcho-tyranny at every level.
It is.
On the ground, the left release criminals. People are being brutalized, and then they pass laws saying you can't own guns, you can't do anything. And then at the administrative level, when you go higher up into politics, you've got the Democrats obstructing everything and Trump admin doing relatively little. Now, don't get me wrong, nuking USAID was a massive move, and so I give Trump credit for that. But KRISTI Noem is being criticized for, we're not getting the deportations people thought we were going to be getting. The DOJ is getting criticized because you're not getting the prosecutions you thought you were going to be getting. It's the same thing. The people in power are not doing anything about the criminals. So politically, we've got a narco-tyranny. On the ground, we've got a narco-tyranny. And what's really frustrating for me is that every day you get inaction and failure, people become more and more disinterested in this. And then how are you supposed to actually rally people together to solve for these political problems when people are basically giving up because they vote for someone like Trump? We're a year in and they're like, this is it. A year later, we lost Dan Bongino. He didn't get the job done. KRISTI Noem wasn't getting the job done. She's gone now. People are calling for Pam Bondi to be fired. The Epstein Files thing is flubbed. And I'm not saying those are the most important things imaginable, but they matter to a lot of people. And the one thing you could always count on, Benjamin Franklin was wrong. He said the two things you can always count on, death and taxes, but there's a third. It's war in the Middle East.
Yeah, so the thing that I was thinking about, well, you used to characterize, or at least you would tell us how other people would characterize that Trump is the bull in a china shop, right? Well, if that's the point here, and we have now entered a level of discourse where everything is discombobulated, nobody has any sense of decorum, we were fine with that because we were assuming that was going to lead to some type of political change. But if what we're getting right now is a bull in a china shop that leads to war in Iran, it's like it's the same thing we were having before, just with mean words on the internet, which are funny, but it doesn't mean that anything's going to be different this time around. Everything feels the same.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see more deportations. I've outlined my opinion about the immigration situation more times than I can count. It does feel like Trump is actually paying more attention to international affairs than he is paying attention to stuff at home. And the America First people, they're not particularly interested in what's going on internationally. They don't want the war in Iran, even though most of MAGA, if you go by the polls, most of MAGA says, look, if this goes well, we're cool with it. You know, there's something like 75% say if it's only a month, they'll be okay with it. So generally, the MAGA Republicans are like, okay, this is all right. But don't lose focus on the homeland. Like paying attention to immigration is the biggest thing. And then the stuff in the fall when it comes to the elections, like that's going to be whether or not people feel like their dollar goes as far as they arbitrarily think it should, right? Like they want to be able to go to the grocery store, pay their bills, and have some left over. And they want to feel like there has been movement on that. And if they don't, Republicans cannot win. I've said this a million times. If they do, Republicans can win. That's not a guarantee that all Republicans are going to win, but they're definitely not going to win if people feel like their dollar is stretched thin.
Well, gas went up 60 cents after Iran.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but that is true. But that's something that, again, if he can keep this to a short-term issue, like a month, gas prices will go down by the time the elections or the campaigns get into full swing. And the American people have a fairly short memory when it comes to this kind of stuff. When it comes to, things that happened 6 months ago or a year ago, it might as well have been 5 years ago. They care about what's right in front of them right now. And if their wallets feel strained, they will not vote for Republicans. And again, I've said it a million times. This is not a guarantee that Republicans will win. It's just the conditions that are necessary for Republicans to be able to win. If things are going poorly in the economy, if people feel like they can't pay their bills, they always vote against the party in power. The history says that generally the party in power loses in the midterms. It's just going to be a bloodbath if they have.
Do you think this could be part of a larger strategy, moving KRISTI NOEM out at this time? So, for example, Trump in his first term was pretty famous for moving somebody out, moving an interim person in. So we saw Jeff Sessions go to then have Matthew Whitaker as an acting attorney general. I'm wondering, could this move with KRISTI NOEM be a strategic shift while all the eyes are on what's going on in Iran, so that when we come back from that and move on to the next phase of his administration, then they bring somebody in who maybe can go even more aggressively after immigration?
They're already bringing in Markwayne Mullin.
Right.
Are they going to boot him out?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm curious because what's the timeline for which he would have to leave the Senate to start to be the acting Secretary of DHS to get confirmed? And then if they don't confirm him, he loses everything. So maybe he doesn't resign the Senate. I don't think he can take both positions. Yeah, I think they're going to have to cut a deal, or maybe they already cut a deal.
Yeah.
He's got to.
They probably are already going to go with support him because they all know him in the Senate.
I have a question for you.
And he's getting backed by the Teamsters head, O'Brien. What's his face? Do you guys remember that? We got to play this video. Come on, you guys.
Ian, to your point, there's a lot of people in the Senate. The Senate usually does have fairly close ranks, and senators will support other senators for positions and stuff like that. There's a lot of people in the Senate that are very unhappy voting for Rubio. Right when Rubio got position of Secretary of State, they all voted for him. I think it was 99% or something like that. Go ahead.
Let's play this video from. Here's the guy who's taken over as head of the DHS, Senator Markwayne Mullin. Here we go.
Mr. O'Brien himself, his behavior, as everybody knows, and it's here. And the last time, him and I kind of had a back and forth. Appreciate your demeanor today. It's quite different. But after you left here, you got pretty excited about the keyboard. In fact, you tweeted at me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And let me read what the last one said. It said, greedy CEO who pretends like he's self-made. Sir, I wish you was in the truck with me when I was building my plumbing company. Myself and my wife was running the office because I sure remember working pretty hard and long hours. Pretends like he's self-made. What a clown. Fraud. always has been, always will be. Quit the tough guy act in these Senate hearings. You know where to find me, any place, anytime, cowboy.
How can you take
Sir,
it?
this is a time, this is a place. If you want to run your mouth, we can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on. Stop it.
Is that your solution, every
Look, he goes stick his ring
sit
out.
down. You're a clown. Sit down. Okay. You know, you're a United States Senator. Sit down.
Active.
Oh, okay.
Sit down.
No. Bernie should be thrown out. O'Brien and Markwayne were being decisive and gentlemanly in their request to bout. And I gotta give respect to O'Brien as well, who was like, okay, like, let's go.
enough
and then
room,
Markwayne goes to pull his ring off, like he's ready to go.
Everyone knows Bernie's a coward. He was standing on that stage, and those two women came up, and they kicked him right off of his own stage. So Bernie Sanders is a.
So I've seen a lot of people criticize Markwayne Mullin as, first policy or whatever. But let's just get some masculinity back in the room. Can we do that? We were talking about this last night, how modern culture has become just feminized trash. And then Phil sent me this clip from Asmongold reacting to the new world of Warcraft. And we have this. We'll talk about it later. But yeah, what's her name? Helen Andrews? Is that the woman? The one talking about how as institutions become feminine, start getting all this woke stuff, and like instead of dealing with issues, everyone just hugs, and then the murderers go free. I'm just, maybe our government needs some guys who are going to be like, stand up, let's go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, otherwise
start throwing fists.
We're in this, what is it called, the rat utopia. Like the United States, since the fall of the Soviet Union, has kind of been a rat utopia where everyone's just living off, the massive tit and getting fat and has all the entertainment and food and cheap gas. And now, so people are going like dystopia. You see this feminist creep. It's not women. It's just this feminist creep that's a result probably of the...
It's largely women.
Feminism, I think feminine energy usually comes out of women more than it comes out of men generally.
Sometimes, yeah.
Well, you look at that clip that we just saw, and it does seem to suggest that this is probably what Trump's going for. He's going for somebody to get in there who is going to be tough and is willing to not shrink away from controversy, clearly, in order to be aggressive about what he wants to get done.
Pete Hegseth is such a badass. I cannot, this guy is a maniac for his job. He loves, and that's like obsessive mania for his, obviously he loves to kill. Is that the right way to phrase it? He loves to destroy the enemy. Like this guy is a fireball, and I'm glad he's on our team. I fully support Hegseth. It's terrifying kind of in a way, but like this is what a war commander does,
We've needed men in the room for some time.
I do love, however, that it started over a Twitter beef, though.
Yeah.
Like,
you tweeted at me.
Like, it wasn't like, hey, you bumped into me in the parking lot and you didn't apologize. It was like, you said something mean to me on the internet, which, of course, has been a hallmark of the internet for as long as it's been around, just people being like, oh, don't let me catch you outside.
But it was perfect. He's like, he's at any time, any place, and he goes, now's the time. This is the place. And he's like, why don't you stand your butt? He's like, you stand your butt up. He's like, okay. All right.
You think they would have gone? I don't think they would have gone. I think the dude sitting down would have been like, no, okay, that's enough.
Pull me back.
Like
Pull me
begging
back.
for some of the
I don't know or care, but Bernie Sanders, this pencil neck, button up shirt guy who's never had a real job in his life. Oh, you are a United States Senator. Oh, sit down. Dude, he said we can be two consenting adults and put an end to this. I don't know if DC has mutual combat rules or laws or whatever, but some states do.
See, this thing, I think Fetterman would let him do it. I think Fetterman would have given both of them a weapon. That's why I'm voting Fetterman in 28.
Fetterman would start stuttering, and you wouldn't know exactly what he was going to say. He'd be like, hey, Senator Mullin, I think you should do it. And you'd be like, okay, we're just waiting a second to see where you're going with this. Let's roll.
That's why it's going to be a great precedent one
Well,
day.
Fetterman tweeted out that he supported a confirmation of Markwayne Mullin.
You could have those two guys at the UFC fight. That's going to be at the White House in the summer, right?
I got to be honest. Markwayne Mullin is a retired MMA fighter.
Yeah, he's 3-0.
He was 3. Yeah, he's 3-0. And I want to stress this. Even as an older guy, right? It was 20 years ago when he was fighting. He clearly looks like he at least stays in shape to a certain degree because it's a lifestyle where you're eating right, you're exercising. I doubt he just stopped doing it. He would flatten O'Brien.
He looks like an anaconda.
He would flatten that guy.
Squeeze that dude.
Look,
until shit came out. Pardon me, dude, he would.
If we've got YouTubers boxing, we need to start letting old politicians box as well.
Bernie,
Yeah.
versus Elizabeth Warren.
Yes.
Terrified.
And they just got rid of Crenshaw, so they could have had Crenshaw fights.
They would have to choose a champion. Yeah, they would have to choose champions because they're too old. Liz and Bernie.
Let's jump to this next story from the Washington Examiner. Head of Miami GOP calls for party official to resign over leaked racist and anti-Semitic chat. Oh boy, did you guys hear about this one?
Yes, I did.
The leaked group chat or whatever. It's funny because we were just playing this joke from Danny Polishchuk the other day about the leaked group chats. And now we have, of course, a legitimate GOP leaked group chat where I read some of the messages, and oh boy, they like saying the N-word.
There was like one last year too, right? There was another one that leaked from DC staffers.
I mean, they don't.
Let's read this from the Washington Examiner. They say, Miami-Dade County Republican Chairman Kevin Cooper said anyone associated with this chat should resign immediately. Well, Republican State Rep Juan Porras on Wednesday called on Carvajal directly to step down, describing the message as deeply disturbing. In messages, Gonzalez said, "You can F all the Ks you want, just don't marry them and procreate," warning about the risk of having, quote, a little K running around. He responded, "I would def not marry a Jew." In another anti-Semitic exchange, Valdez changed the group chat name to Gooning in Agartha, referencing slang for male, if you know what I mean, and the mythical civilization promoted by Adolf Hitler's top henchman, Heinrich Himmler. Valdez described Agartha as esoteric Nazism, essentially, while Gonzalez said it was Nazi heaven, sort of. To be fair, if you're not giving us the context of what they were saying, just putting in quotes a small, like him saying esoteric Nazism, essentially, they could be criticizing it for all I know. Not that I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, to be honest. In another exchange, Valdez said, "We need to have a moratorium on immigration temporarily, unless it's someone from a first world country. Yeah, I obviously mean whites." Some chat users also use derogatory language about women, while others frequently used the word N, and additional disparaging and violent comments against black people. Ew, you had colored professors, Gonzalez wrote. I refuse, he meant refuse, to be indoctrinated by the coloreds. He later said, avoid the coloreds like the plague. Wow. This is Florida. In another exchange, a user sent a series of violent messages about wanting to exterminate N-word. Jeez. This is wild stuff.
You shouldn't put that stuff. Well, you shouldn't say that stuff, but you shouldn't put it in group chats. I know people think, oh, it's the group chat. It's safe. Look, these things.
No, it's not.
It's not at all.
There should be special punishments for whoever leaks the group chat, though. That is 110%.
Yeah,
true.
I mean, but
you're
look,
violating. It's a level of trust.
It is, but still, like, in modern society, like group chats are just as vulnerable as anything else.
I leave them. Like most of the time, I don't even stay because it's like you're going to end up being guilty by association for something if somebody says something that you had nothing to do with.
Yeah. Now, that being said, the Republicans should ignore all the calls for resigning and stuff because the Democrats will just use that as confirmation that the people actually meant it and that they were actually racist and stuff. They might be able to get away with saying, oh, this is just, we were just being, locker room talk or whatever, however you want to call it. They're not going to approve these people if they say they're sorry, so they should ignore all the calls for people to resign.
Kind of makes me think of that dude who was saying in the group chat that he wanted to kill somebody's mom, or I don't remember. It was a month and a half ago.
Yeah, there was just the current AG of
he wanted to
Virginia.
He wanted to kill children.
Yes.
And he didn't resign.
No.
Nothing, and he won.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. Exactly what I'm talking about. Democrats will say the most absolutely abhorrent stuff, and nothing happens. So the Republicans should ignore this because no one actually cares. They're only going to use it to get scalps. The Republicans should ignore this.
Yeah, really, right. As long as there's a two-tiered standard of justice, then there's no real point in playing that game.
That's right.
What it does suggest to me, though, is that, come on, let's have smarter people in these group chats, right? Like, really, you want to take a risk like that with your career, it doesn't seem wise.
It's young guys that do stupid things, and genuinely young guys do stupid things. That's part of...
No, I think this has everything to do with what we were talking about yesterday with World of Warcraft. I'm not even joking or exaggerating. When there's this clip that Asmongold, has on his X account where he watches a clip from from Warcraft, not World of Warcraft, but the original IP from 1994. And the point is this: when we were all kids, the content we got was like dudes in armor running through a battlefield screaming. And, you've got like Braveheart and things like that.
RoboCop had toys for kids.
Yeah, now you have, and then it's like 2026, World of Warcraft is Shrek. Like, it's the orcs, which are supposed to be gigantic, brutish monsters, are bumbling around like, whoa, don't mind me. And then the character is going, woohoo, I'm dancing. And so what happens is the outlet for young men and their aggression is gone. There were games to play, and it would direct them in a messaging or in a narrative. Now they don't have that, and so their outlet for aggression is these dark corners of the internet. So they're going to grow up, and instead of being aggressive as it pertains to competitive sports or something like this, they're going into politics. And in politics, the most aggressive stuff they're being fed is going to be this kind of stuff. And that's what you're going to get.
There's this character, I'm trying to find it. It's in Warcraft. The chick is it's a black girl, but she's an orc. But it's obviously like a black woman is what they're trying to do. And she's got like a buzz cut, and she's like the badass hero. But it's like
when?
It's like this new, one of the new
Recently?
orc protagonists. Yeah. They just created some new character, and it's a black, basically they're like, here's your new hero is a black woman. And like, I have no problem with black women. I find them extremely erotic, exotic, and all these things. Like lots of stuff. But to make them the main protagonist of an action game for kids is like, makes them kind of maybe resent that they're being force-fed shit that's like weird. You know, like you don't go on the battlefield and expect to see a large black woman next to you in combat.
You're half there. Let me translate these Ianisms.
I don't care what skin color you have.
Let me translate the Ianisms, because I actually talked about this earlier today as I did a breakdown of basically just elaborating on everything we're talking about. Concord, for those that aren't familiar, was a $400 million project by Sony that launched to tens of players. Like, ultimately, they sold 25,000 copies of the game, but nobody was playing it. And within 11 days, they shut it down and refunded all their money. It is considered to be the biggest flop in the history of all media. From $400 million to zero. Even bad movies that flop, it'll be like it was $100 million budget and it did $60 million. It's a flop.
Oh, there's some movies that lose maybe not that much, but
Indeed.
Close.
The point is, I went through and looked at the characters in this game, Concord, and it's a bunch of like Tumblr-esque woke, weird they-thems and she-thems. There's like a fat Pakistani guy, and it's like, first and foremost, we go to fantasy games and realms to play as the extreme superhero. You want a guy who's jacked up, and you want a woman who's super hot. Like, you don't want to be yourself. You want to be in a fantasy of the best. But more importantly, for these games, people need to see something recognizable. Mm-hmm. And so to Ian's point about an orc black woman lesbian.
Garona is her name, by the way.
Garona.
That's what I'm talking about.
The question is, will any young person see that character and recognize that trope in some kind of way? No, it doesn't exist. And so what ends up happening is they keep trying to make these, like, the example that I give in the Overwatch video game, which came out 10 years ago, and we played these videos yesterday as well. The characters are 100% stereotypes. Hilarious. But you know what the thing is? Stereotypes are recognizable. So when someone sees an Egyptian character, and it's not demeaning, and she's got like a hieroglyph over her eye, they're like, oh, she's Egyptian. Like, I understand references to that culture.
It's a visual shortcut.
Indeed. Mm-hmm. Then when you decide you're going to make a black woman who does not in any way behave or represent anything related to black females and their culture or black culture, no one likes it. So no one will touch it. And anyway, not to get into all that right now, we'll talk about that later. This goes back to the point about these group chats. I'm going to loop it back in. Young guys go online. They do not have an opportunity to see war, conquest. And I'm not saying that you should always just be into that stuff, but they're not seeing stories of heroism, and they're not being given challenges. They're not being told, here's how you succeed, here's how you be strong, here's how you be better. Instead, they're being told to hold hands and, kiss puppies. And it's like, yo, there's a time and a place for hugging your puppy. But guys want to jump off buildings and punch each other in the nuts. And for that matter, we can also get into, we'll save this for the end of the show, the new game EA Skate. One of the most anticipated games of all time, no joke, has 1,900 players on average right now. Again, one of the most apocalyptic failures of a media. Within 6 months, the player base dropped, and they lost 70% of their players after launch. Because it's not a game where, as a man, you are being told, here's how you conquer the world. It's a game where you play as a morbidly obese guy with tits, and you're being told by some young girl to go and have fun and play and dance.
Oh, cheat.
And I'm not even, this is why I'm pissed, and this is why I'm going to shout out Markwayne Mullin again for standing up and calling O'Brien to the Teamsters to fight. And I'm going to give a shout out to O'Brien as well for saying, let's go, because they're being men. Not that I think it's appropriate for two guys to just throw down in a Senate chamber, but at least they're being men.
In RFK, another man, like a legit, like testosterone-laden human man. That guy, and he's doing the man thing of like, let's get healthy.
Testosterone-laden.
He doesn't want to break you with his elbows.
He's delivering it to someone else.
Yes, he wants to feed you his testosterone-laced health advice.
Well, at least maybe Olivia Nuzzi.
I don't know.
Fighting back.
Is that too esoteric a joke?
He is fighting back currently against all of the Burger King and McDonald's CEOs who are trying to sell you their burgers by trying to get you healthy.
So basically, protecting the food supply is it's a masculine trait. You know, protecting in general is a masculine trait. So you don't have to break people's faces to be masculine. You can also protect the environment.
Well, a lot of times protecting does require breaking someone's face, just not the person you're protecting.
Or like wild animals.
All right, let's because we're already talking about it, let's jump to this, and I want to show you this clip. And we have this from World of Warcraft. They have a new game coming out. And I want to just start by saying to everybody who doesn't care about these video games or anything like that, the purpose of this segment is to discuss the destruction of masculinity, the removal of what it means to be a man, the challenge to our young people, and how it's, I believe, brewing extremism in politics in a way that we're not going to be happy with. So we just talked about this group chat leak where you've got these guys, they're saying a bunch of racist things. And I got to be honest, I don't think for the most part these people actually are deeply racist. I think they're trying to be shocking and edgy. They are trying to be aggressive because this is what young men do. And I want to show you just the beginning, a little bit of this video from World of Warcraft to give you an example of what is being done to our young people. And if men cannot find an outlet for their drive and aggression, they will find it somewhere else. And it used to be in our media and our video games where kids would play cops and robbers and chase each other around and the little boys would play fight. And now they're being told to stop doing it. It's a problem that people have addressed over the past 20 years, but has never stopped. The problem of you got a little boy and a little girl in grade school, and the little boy wants to jump up and down, and he wants to punch the ball, and he wants to play, and he's told to sit down and shut up and be like a girl.
They give him a bunch of Adderall.
Or they give him drugs. Let me play a little bit of this, and you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. This is the new trailer for the expansion for World of Warcraft, and I also want to stress, look what they have taken from us. So it starts off with a woman. Wow, wait, let's pause real quick. Wow, look at that. Look at that. Slicing straight through. Okay, we're getting somewhere, right? Hey, so far so good. All right. Whoa. All right, I'm into this. What happens next?
Some awesome stuff. Or I could be wrong.
Yes! yes!
You lost me.
What? And then they had to drag Ozzy into this? Look at this.
We're all Friendsville.
Yep.
This is Orgrimmar.
Oh, look. Is it?
I think so.
It's a cooperative.
2026.
Oh, it's Shrek.
Yeah, somebody from they got a hold of a Shrek animation.
Unreal. No, don't you besmirch Ozzy with this stupid garbage of the giggling lady being like, oh, I went. So here's the issue.
Till the end, where she trivializes the loot that she got.
What you mean, like where she just like
found this master magic crown.
She got the crown, and it's like,
it's
cool.
frozen.
Like I did this big.
Doesn't want you to watch anymore.
No,
It's like
X is like just.
There we go. Like she just fucking.
It's gray loot, bro. She's putting on a shelf. It's gray loot.
Either she's an idiot or she is disrespectful of the loot. I don't.
It was literally just a tea kettle holding.
It's literally the most like millennial woman thing ever. Like first coffee.
They're trying to sell. She found the perfect item for her house decorations because that's what the game's about, is decorating your house. A lot of the game now,
bro. This is the point. You'd think it's like a crown or it's like an item you're going to wear it and it's going to grant you like a force field. No, it's to hold her tea kettle so she can sit there and sip her tea and, as Ian pointed out, to decorate her house. This is the point, man. So we have the original. I just want to show you this one part of the intro to Burning Crusade, which is back in the day when we were all playing it. And let's just jump ahead. You got the introduction of the Draenor. And then here's the introduction of the blood elf back in the day compared to what you just saw. Watch this version. 20 years ago. Brutal. Her face becomes twisted and she strips the life out of the monoworm to absorb its energy. Much, much more brutal. And it literally ends with the blood elf female. And this is funny because it's so feminist. Watch this. Slamming her staff into the ground, creating a big burst of energy, which is kind of dumb because what she was doing was actually a healing spell. I guess to be fair, it hurts your enemies and heals your allies or whatever.
The point is they got it right 20 years ago before HR departments came in to tell them they were doing it wrong.
And they got it right 20 years ago, and it became the hottest IP ever. Even Dave Chappelle was talking about how he played World of Warcraft. Tons of celebrities were like, this game is amazing. And now it's about decorating your house. So ultimately, here's my point, because we talked about it last night. We'll talk about it now. Young men need an outlet for adventure, for growth, to conquer. And it's not about just being a merciless dictator and beating people and enslaving people. It's about being the best version of yourself and the male power fantasy. That is saving the woman and being the hero. And now all the IP, it's like Fortnite. It's like cartoon, silly collectibles. And that is 100% female. Now, this is the funny thing. This is why, like, it all comes together with, like, what they're doing with non-binary stuff, which, of course, we can get into the James Tallarico thing where he says God is non-binary. But they're basically like, how do we make the game for boys and girls? I know, you beat the crap out of each other in order to decorate your house instead of just one or the other. I know, how about you make a game where you can decorate your house for the people who want to play that game, or if women want to play Candy Crush, they can. And for the guys, you play the game where you slay the dragon and then use its entrails to decorate your house.
Or destroy your friend's house. It will still be fine for them, you know.
This is a mixture of both the corporate structure of these companies now, which are so large that they get focus groups and they try to find ways to advertise. In Hollywood, for movies, it's called 4-quadrant movie making, where you try to make movies for men, women, young and old. And usually, me and Phil were talking about this earlier, when you try to make something for everybody, you end up making something for nobody at all.
There is an ancient Japanese proverb. It says, "He who attempts to catch 2 rabbits will catch neither."
Did you talk about the Karen video game?
Yeah, we did.
There you go.
I mean, I'm excited for it.
I don't know if you want to play.
It's to be honest, it's very masculine.
Yeah.
She's going in and she's just she's smashing everything.
If you can become a guy in that, and then you'll turn it around. Be Carl.
Somebody edited it, and they used AI to make her black. And I know that, like, I already made a video where I said I would do that, but they were like day one mod, and they made the Karen a black woman, and I'm like, no, that's correct. It'll be modded like crazy.
If they should make it so she gets bigger the more she eats, like Katamari Damacy. You ever play that where you roll that ball around and sticky things to the ball, and the ball gets bigger and bigger, and then you're like rolling it through cities and like picking up buildings and stuff? Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. There's actually,
there's something important that needs to be said. If World of Warcraft and these companies really do want to just make money, okay, well, OnlyFans make substantially more money than anything they're doing. So why don't they just make World of OnlyFans and you'll make money? My point is, if the goal is to make money and you don't care that you're destroying your intellectual property, then just go full bore, baby. Why are you even bothering with this stuff? Just make it World of OnlyFans, make every character a big-tittied lady, and then you got to pay premium so they're naked. You'll make way more money.
That's probably true.
Yeah, it is. And you know what? Then you can leave the more serious gameplay and adventure seeking to the people who like it. I want to stress, because people have responded to this commentary saying, "You're just an old man, Tim. You're turning 40. You don't understand. These games are for kids, not for." Shut up. I was like, what was I, 8 years old when I played Warcraft 1? And I'm going just bashing the crap out of orcs and leaving bloody corpses on the ground. I was 8, okay? And that was great. And then Warcraft 2 and Warcraft 3 and then World of Warcraft. Kids don't need to watch brutal gore films or anything like that. But the idea that, well, kids these days will play this game. No, I'm tired of this infantilizing garbage, okay? Kids can have like violent video games to a certain degree. And the thing is about World of Warcraft, They didn't show blood and gore. The hits were just sparks, but you still had the aggressive nature. You still had conquest. You still had challenges, threats of war. It was serious.
Yeah, Diablo is another Blizzard IP that they really have fumbled with because they just have lazily gone into the blood. They just show a lot of blood. They're like, it's Diablo, the devil, so let's just do pain, suffering, and blood. And like, I don't want to watch a cutscene of a girl ripping a guy's stomach open and eating his. Like, I'll just skip it. This is supposed to be a triple A plus best game in the world, the fourth one. And the old Diablos, you would just blow up enemies; they just explode. It didn't matter. Maybe there was a pool of blood on the ground, but it wasn't about the blood.
I gotta go.
It's not about the boobs.
Phil, you got to take it.
Okay.
Family emergency.
Okay, buddy.
Nothing too crazy, but I got to go.
Well, I'm just going to keep talking about video games for an hour.
Thanks for coming.
I have no one to complain about video. You guys want to complain about? Okay, see you, buddy. I want to. Let's just go. What are you going to say?
Well, the direction I was thinking of looking at this in is I'm wondering if what we're actually seeing here is a much larger cultural shift. There was a great article written by a guy named Jacob Savage in this online journal Compact, and it's called The Lost Generation. And the premise that he makes there is that what happened between Generation X and the millennials, and then it's going to be Generation Z, is that move for DEI and to get equal representation of women and everyone else in the workforce just took over like the cultural we call the cultural industries. So film, universities, television shows, where the Gen Z white males didn't leave and say, okay, we're going to give our seats to black women, right? But what they did is they then were part of, hiring programs that only hired basically non-white males. Yeah. So you had all of these millennials who were up and coming in, say, the entertainment industry to be writers and producers and things, and suddenly they're being looked over no matter how good their work is. And what I would wonder is, are we seeing this same phenomenon here in the video game world? Because this is totally fitting
Same
up.
rules apply.
Yes, it's totally fitting up time-wise, because it was about 2014, they say, when this shift really took place. And then you saw white males largely going to other kinds of industries, kind of like what we're doing here.
It was 2016 that they made that black orc woman that I was talking about. I don't even have her name, but it's 2016.
This is something that we've talked about a little. We were talking about a little bit
earlier,
today. It's become a phenomenon. There was a piece that came out. I forget what the article was in, but talking about how millennial men, older millennials, Gen X, and boomers have largely kept their positions, but it's become really, really hard for young guys, for younger millennials, Gen Z, and likely some Gen Alpha kids to find jobs, because they're basically pulling the ladder up behind them, right? So there's this push for diversity and inclusion that started probably 10 years ago, really kind of peaked in 2020 or whatever. And so there were all these guys in these positions, and they jumped on board with it right away, saying, "Oh yeah, we want to make sure that we hire diverse people." And they were hiring people, of all kinds of different backgrounds and stuff. And they were essentially blocking out the possibility for young white guys. And then you have all these positions, or you have all these kids that are just not getting jobs. They go to college, they get sold a bill of goods that if you go to college, you'll get a job. You go ahead and take a loan out because you'll get a good job and you'll be able to pay it off. And these young guys aren't getting jobs at all. And it's starting to show in the culture, because the type of stories that a diverse group of people, or a woman would write, or a person from a minority background, they are different types of stories than young men would write.
Not even necessarily just that, but the type of person who would get ahead by those types of programs would. So these industries have been diverse for years. There have been fantastic writers and directors of all different races for a very long time, but the ones who have got in by virtue of these programs put a specific interest in the concept of identity and talking about how identity affects storytelling, which is going to leak into the type of stories that you think are necessary to tell on screen. If we're talking video games and movies, also, a lot of it is, if it's not the 4-quadrant approach that I was talking about for the big blockbuster movies, it is the idea that you make your movies with a female audience in mind, even if they're doing it wrong. So in Hollywood, for superhero movies, that's to put women in roles that were traditionally, these characters have always existed, but they were never at the same level of, Supergirl is not Superman. Superman. And in a lot of ways, or in the same way, Batman and Batgirl, all of these things, is that when men go watch superhero movies, that is the male power fantasy, the quintessential idea of being the hyper competent, good in any situation dude who can solve. It still exists in a realm today, what they call dad TV, which is military dramas or covert ops stuff like Preacher or Terminalist or anything Taylor Sheridan is doing, stuff like that. But when you try to make it for everybody, what they just did is they just put women in those roles rather than adjusting for the type of storytelling, which there are still good stories that can be told but they didn't do that. They just slapped a new coat of paint on what they were doing, and it's falling flat, and that shows in stuff like this.
I saw, you guys ever see The Last of Us? Pretty popular show, but I watched the first episode. My mom was like, you gotta see it. I'm like, that's what people have been telling me for years. Can't wait, get ready for this garbage. And I watched it, and it was like, zooms, apocalypse, mushrooms attack, Zoom comes to the future, and now they're in this like camp, and these are survivors of humanity. It's a bunch of women in charge. I'm like, bro, in a post-apocalyptic society, the women would have been taken captive and used to breed. Do you understand how messed up this movie is?
They're not willing to approach that type of post-apocalyptic story anymore with any sense of realism. There was a show back in like the early 2000s called Jeremiah that was really, really good, talking about stuff like that and the way warlords would crop up in different, areas of the country and stuff like that. But that type of story, there is no premium put on that type of what they would consider accuracy, at least what we know of history and how war affects, or when different people come into different communities, take over, and what happens. There's no approach to that anymore. Also, the other problem is back in the day, movies were made or television shows were made by people that studied literature. Now movies and television are made by people that study film, so they don't have a classical understanding of those stories the way they would have in the past.
Yeah, that's a great point, because you ask how much does what we see represented. Like you said, it's putting forward the ideals of DEI culture and making that in the storylines. But you even go back to these diverse cultures. If diversity is our strength and we love diversity, we go back to these other cultures. And do we see, African myths that have these storylines, or, no one anywhere, male or female, is enjoying these storylines?
Well, and the thing is, they could do that. Most of the time, they're not doing that. There is the idea that you could tell a unique story from a unique culture, and people would have a certain level of interest in that. But what they would rather do is slap the new coat of paint on it, because they are looking to gather the largest audience possible. To them, if you tell a story unique to African culture or unique to Spanish culture, these studios are now run by corporate executives. And these corporate executives, they look at demographics and they look at focus groups and test groups. What audience is going to come out the most for this? Depending on the budget for that movie, they are going to soften it and make it the most kind of mishmash bit of cinematic oatmeal, basically, where it's all slop that runs together, because they're trying to get everybody to watch. And what people actually want to see are authentic stories, and they don't realize that most people, they do not need to see themselves represented on screen to go and watch a movie. Like, it's just not something that's actually real to people that aren't terminally online.
I find that the attempt to please everybody does miss the mark, because I think the thing about culture and cultural victory is when you make something that appeals to a niche, and then the rest of the world sees it and they're like, holy shit, I want to become part of that. And then they change to form your niche, and you build your niche.
Yeah. Go ahead.
That's the way I've always seen valuable art, is like it hits so right that it appeals to people that never even knew it could exist.
I brought up Maverick earlier. It's like that movie really did kind of focus on just the things that worked for Top Gun initially in the first movie, and it was the biggest movie of the year.
Even that, the point I always make with that movie is it ends on a love ballad. Like when was the last time you saw a movie that actually unapologetically leaned into that type? He gets the girl at the end, right? So in that story, he's kind of a man out of time. He doesn't really, he feels like the world has passed him by. He doesn't really know if he has what it takes anymore, because there are younger pilots. The military is moving past what he does. Makes perfect sense. That's something that anybody of any age, I think, can at at least understand. Even a young person can understand because they look at their dad and they say, like, my dad doesn't know what's going on in the world either, right? Yeah. And depending on how, how much you're willing to romanticize that type of storytelling, that speaks to men and women, young and old, but it's not designed specifically for that purpose. Men love it because of the idea of flying a jet and getting the girl. Yeah. Women love the idea of it because, competent men save the world for them in jets.
I got a question for you guys. This is just like your opinion. If I was going to write a movie and there's an action movie, and should there be a romantic story in the movie where the guy gets the girl at the end, or should it just be pure action?
It should.
He saves the woman and the child, but he has to move on anyway, and there's never romantic. She desires him, but there's no copulation.
We're past
I would say
that.
the second one. I would say you're
No. I'm so sick of them. They're just willing to get away from that entirely. No, the dude should absolutely.
People like it when the guy gets the girl. Yeah.
So
I think you should have the opportunity to get the girl, but not take it.
Nope.
Like you were saying.
You think so? That's the argument I said to my brother, because he's got to get the girl. And I'm like, well, I like it that he's like, keep it robotic, keep it animalistic. Animalistic.
He also comes out on top because he has options,
So in Twisters the other year, they Glenn Powell, it was actually really good. It was the one movie that I thought was going to fail, ended up being really, really good. And he develops a relationship or what you'd consider like a romantic interest in the main girl. And at the end, they literally have them come together and then nothing happens.
Oh.
And it's just like, why? Like, what is the point? Like, there was nothing to be gained, and they literally tried to make some argument about how putting them together at the end would cheapen the storytelling. To who? To any rational person who understands love and romance and getting through something traumatic together. You want to see that from them. You don't want to see them just be like, oh, for the sake of, I guess, her agency, they don't come together. She's an adult, and they're falling in love in a matter of speaking, or at least in a very short period of time. Yeah. That's something appealing, and that's the thing. Women would find that appealing too, not just men.
Yeah, and look, the whole reason guys try to be competent and try to be successful is because they want to get women. They want to attract women. That's the base instinct, right? So and it's like, sure, there's a portion of guys that would be like, yeah, he decides not to, and he's got bigger things on his mind. But unless you have an integral part of the story that says he can't do this for
like Terminator 2, because that was my argument. Arnold Schwarzenegger's not trying to get it on with Linda Hamilton. He's a robot.
Yes, it's true.
And even
I think he weighs like 1,000 pounds, so I think he'd crush her if he did.
Even so take the Avengers movie where Hulk, or what's his name, Banner has to leave, right? He leaves because he's too afraid of what he would do to the world as the Hulk. Like the Scarlet Witch got in his head, and ever since then he was kind of messed up. And so he's like, I can't be around people. So there was an actual, tangible reason why he couldn't be with the Scarlet Witch. I'm sorry, with Black Widow. But like, other than something that has a significant part of the story, like, dudes want to see the guys get the girl, right?
And I think this all comes back to they've overcomplicated all of this. They've made this type of storytelling more difficult than it needs to be. There's a reason why these tropes have worked for as long as they have, because people understand, people want those basic concepts. They want to see people overcome obstacles. They want to see people fall in love. They want to see all of these things. But it's like they're being told, whether it's by feminist literature or people who study critical race theory or all the things, you can't do that now. It's promoting bad ideas. It's gotten us to where we are in society.
The patriarchy.
Exactly. It's the patriarchy. So by trying to be clever and work around it, they end up making their products worse.
Yeah, and it's something that is inherent, even in like today's modern society. Like, it's inherent for people to want to get together. Like, dudes that are pissed off at women, right? Like the go your own way. They're always complaining about it.
Whoa. Did you guys feel the thunder?
Yes.
Thunderstorm. Feel the vibration?
Pretty serious.
They said don't bang on the table. God didn't listen.
I'm sure that
is that what that is? I thought
I know it's thunder.
No,
it was somebody at the skate park.
I bet my
still going.
There's thunder.
That was
It's
12-second
really bad.
boom.
Okay.
Sorry, Phil. What?
So,
God so rudely interrupted you. I apologize on behalf of
Ian's like, weather, guys, weather. But yeah, so I mean, it is something that's still ingrained in people. They want to find connection, and men generally want to find connection with a woman. And so, like I said, even though the men go their own ways, the MGTOW guys, like they're complaining about the fact that they can't meet women. They're complaining. They're upset about it, and they say, well, it's not worth it. But that's all motivated by the fact that they're angry that they can't find a person that they think is interested in them, or they don't feel like they can trust women and stuff. So the desire, the motivation is almost always for a family or for to be with a woman or whatever, you know? That's the way guys kind of think.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Were you about to say, Tap?
Well, I just think, yeah, the point that you're bringing up is if you look throughout history and you look at some of the iconic films, it's this idea of the self-sacrificing male who restrains many of his urges and things or self-interest in order to build something larger. You notice like the old Clint Eastwood movies like Pale Rider or something, you know, comes into town, restores order, then rides off in the sunset. You see it in a real, probably sort of a forgotten film now, but a classic was Shane, the old a famous Western very much like that, where Shane then having overcome the cattle barons, I believe it was either rides off, into the distance. And there was something very appealing about that, as well as appealing to the guy who comes and gets the girl and saves the day. But I think what's not appealing is when those roles get all reversed, because it's not what men are looking for and who they want to be. Yeah. It's not what women are looking for and what women want. And I think if we want to look at iconic films, I mean, let's go, all the way back to the original Star Wars, right? There you've got like Luke Skywalker shooting a grappling hook, grabs Princess Leia, they swing across, some abyss, in the middle of this huge ship. And he's competing, or Han Solo's competing with him for her affection, and she's totally feminine. I mean, she's out there wielding a blaster, but she's still a feminine character. You fast forward to Episode 7, where they bring in Rey, who turns out to be Rey Palpatine, and I mean, she's the Mary Sue, right? She just finds the Millennium Falcon in a junkyard, and she can fly it.
Everything just goes her way.
Right. Kylo Ren, this guy stops particle beams with his brain. She kicks his butt with a lightsaber. They also pick one up. It's just. It's not anything close to what people desire or innately feel is what our purpose is as human beings.
Somebody pointed out that the reason Kylo Ren doesn't work is because Darth Vader is always calm. You don't see him lose control, whereas Kylo Ren is just constantly yelling, and that's not scary.
You think about the scene when Darth Vader's watching them escape. The only emotion you see is the back of his head. He just turns his head the other way, and then just walks away from the window. There's no outburst. There's just okay, that happened.
Yeah, less emotion is more masculine in a situation like that.
I always love when Luke's beating on him with the lightsaber, and Vader's like, and then he goes, it's like the one time you get to hear him scream and he gets his arm cut off.
I will make an argument to your point earlier about getting the girl. One example would be James Bond movies, where he does get the girl, but he does not stay in one place.
He gets all the girls.
He gets all the girls, but that might be more what they mean, which is he gets the women want him, because that's the whole James Bond power fantasy is the men want to be him, the women want to be with him, but he's not it got bad in the Daniel Craig movies when they focused too much on, after Casino Royale, on how much he loved Vesper, because I'm I don't really care if James Bond is in love, because that's not really what James Bond is about on the structural level of the character.
If he at the end of the movie was like, I love you so much, I want to quit being a spy and be with you.
That would be so lame.
He literally does do that.
Oh, that's the mistake I was going to make fun of.
Well, he does. Well, I don't want to give spoiler alerts.
He's
but he
let's
didn't
get
see
married and settle down.
20 years ago.
This life behind.
I'll quit my mission.
Not
make you my
attractive.
mission.
Yeah,
so he literally does that. So you can skip ahead a couple of minutes if you didn't see Casino Royale back in 2006. But basically, he tells Vesper that he will walk away from being a spy, and then she dies.
Then I'll stop being James Bond. I'll stop.
She betrays him.
Oh, perfect.
So that's how that ends.
Even worse.
Okay.
That's what he gets. Now he's back to being distant.
All right, we're going to jump to this story from the Boston Herald. Moulton's State of the Union guest referenced in police reports involving sexual assault and juveniles, according to police. Let's see. Congressman Seth Moulton's illegal immigrant guest during the State of the Union address is referenced in police reports involving sexual assault and juveniles, police say. The Herald submitted a public records request to the Secretary of State's office and the Milford Police Department regarding two reports, one from June and the other from September of 2021. Where Marcelo Gomez da Silva was apparently named as the person of interest. The Herald sought the police report number 21-23101, dated 9/15/2021, featuring Marcelo Gomes da Silva, and 1-16-254 dated 6/30/21, also featuring the 19-year-old. Milford Deputy Chief John Sancioni denied both of those requests, indicating that the police report from June 21st involves sexual assault in juveniles and that the report from September 21st involves juveniles. He did not elaborate. The deputy chief simply wrote, "The records you are requesting are not public record in accordance with blah, 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 involves a sexual assault, and juveniles report blah, 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 involves juveniles." So it's pretty interesting that it seems the Democrats always side with some kind of criminal.
Yeah.
Like, beyond the fact that they're here illegally, they always hold up these people that they believe are these model immigrants that they can say, oh, look, this is an illegal person. This person's here illegally. They don't have papers. They're an undocumented person. And then it always turns around and bite them in the ass because they've got some kind of criminal history that really Americans just don't want to have to. They don't want to hear about it. They don't want to hear that that immigrants are committing crimes. They want criminals sent out of here, and Democrats can't help but take the side of people that are coming to the United States and committing massive amounts of crime.
Why do you think that is?
Well, because I think that, honestly, that Democrats believe that everybody that has committed crimes should be, is rehabilitable.
Victim of circumstance?
They're victim of circumstance. They believe in the blank slate. They believe that if the structural issues in the United States weren't the way they are, that these people wouldn't have committed crimes. And I think that's totally BS. I think there are people that are more inclined to commit crimes, and there are people that are less inclined to commit crimes. And the people that are more inclined to commit crimes do multiple crimes, like come here illegally. Mm-hmm. There was 4 years of the Biden administration where basically anybody that could get here was allowed to stay. There was no background checks on anyone to talk about, and so there were a lot of people that had issues in their countries of origin where they said, "Oh, I can get out of here and I'll go to the United States and I can start over, or I can just stay there because the United States is allowing basically anyone to come in," right? Mm-hmm. Biden himself said it. He said, "You should surge the border here for if you can get to the border, we'll take you in. If you want to seek asylum, come here, etc." And they were just allowing people to come into the interior of the country. Anyone that got here, they didn't have to go to a port of entry. They didn't have to go through the normal asylum rules. They just showed up, and the Biden administration let them in. So that was a gigantic magnet for people that were criminals in their countries of origin to come to the United States. And I think this is just emblematic of it.
Also, that is, structurally for the Democrats, that's a benefit because of what it does for the census, and then what it does is it takes advantage of the toxic levels of empathy that a lot of people in their voter base have, which means that they get to use it. It's politically expedient for them to use it as a means of growing their voting base, as well as changing the demographics of whatever cities they're going to, whatever, people that are more in line with Democrat policies. And then you are the bad guy if you, for some reason, don't. And the funny thing was, we saw the video, I think we talked about it last week, about the lady who she fled. Her and her partner fled to Canada and couldn't afford the rent there because it's freaking expensive to live wherever they were in Vancouver or whatever it was, and said, "Look, we can't apply for any of the social services. We don't qualify. That's fine." I was like, "Look, I don't know what this lady's full, plate of political beliefs are, but it's not hard to believe that if you fled Trump's America, that you probably have a pretty soft stance on American immigration, right? You probably think that anybody that wants to come here is, it's all well and good because it's our duty to apparently help everybody else across the world."
Yep.
And it's weirdly, it's not even hypocrisy because it's intentional.
Yeah.
If we didn't have such eyes on what's happening, I think this may be the first time in world history ever, in human history, that we know of, that a society realized they were being invaded through a mass migration. It's got to always, after the fact, they find out. Maybe the government knows, but if the government's complicit, when the government says please search, they'll keep the population snowed out and not knowing what the fuck until they're taken over, and then they're like, "See now." But it's
worse than complicit, though. The reason it's worse. Well, one second, I just want to drive this one point, and then I'll give it back to you. But it's worse than complicit. They're facilitating. They're not just saying, "Oh, we're going to ignore the fact that there are criminals coming here." They're facilitating these people. They would go and they would offer flights to them. They offer them support from government programs. This is worse than just being like, well, we're going to turn a blind eye. Which they're actually helping them.
He told them to surge. He told people, surge the border. That's Biden. Said that when he was campaigning for president, and then he won. So I think the whole, like, why people feel like
he was already in office when he said that, right?
He was before he got into office. It was in during his campaign, like November before he got elected, or October.
Office of the president-elect situation.
No, it was a debate with Trump. He was debating with Trump.
Okay.
But that people are treated like the bad guy when they speak out against it. I don't think that dynamics really existed much in history because we didn't have internet video to see and to complain about the problem in the acute moment, and the government would just
Well, a lot of this goes back to demographic forecasting that they did back in the early 2000s, right? So in general, 80% of children tend to adopt the political views of their parents. And so back in the early 2000s, I mean, the Democrats did, and a lot of people were talking about this, but in particular, the Democrats realized the risk for their party, which was that liberal voters are reproducing at much lower rates than conservative ones. So as the demographic trajectories were going, it would only be a short matter of time before conservatives are really outpopulating. Conservatives and moderate conservatives are outpopulating your farther left base of the Democratic Party. And so you really did need to come up with new voters. And if they weren't going to give birth to new voters, then you have to import your new voters. So it's been a long strategy going on probably for about 20 years or more to do just this. And then it also ties in to communist interests in the United States, right? So a longstanding goal of the communist parties was to bring in people from poorer countries, right, who would be more ideologically aligned with socialism because they would benefit the most from it. And actually Venezuela was seen to be a significant player in that, because as Venezuela destabilized under its previous regimes, then it's sending more and more refugees who are liable to come eventually to the United States with at least more socialistically leaning proclivities, right? And so that's what you do. That's how you replace a one voter demographic with another in order to maintain political power. And we see that, of course, taking place in Europe, where the elite political class of Europe is more than willing to offset the indigenous voter base of natural-born Europeans with migrants, and then play to those migrant interests. And we saw that in Spain I think it was last week, where they gave citizenship to something like 500,000 African immigrants for the express purpose of offsetting what they called the far right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, that's shocking. That's the first I'd heard that, Ed.
Yeah.
With the idea that they're importing voters?
And that they made 500,000 people citizens? They
500,000 in one swoop.
I mean, Chuck Schumer just talked about the other day, talked about naturalizing or giving amnesty to 11 million in the United States.
What did he say? Do you have
said that we should give amnesty to 11 million people in the United States
of the current illegal immigrants.
Yeah. And that's essentially the overarching plan, right? Allow the people to come in, allow them to become somehow connected to the United States, whether it be get jobs,
move in next to your neighbors.
Yeah. So then they're members of then they're not illegals, they're members of the community. If you listen to the people in Minneapolis talk, they were all saying the same thing. These are members of our community. And so they're trying to convince people that these people that are here illegally, that have come in illegally, that they're vital members of the community, and we can't break apart communities. They use these phrases that are politically charged and essentially emotionally charged in order to get people to feel bad, because the whole suicidal empathy thing is a real phenomenon, right? So you tell people that they're actually important members of the community, and we can't break up communities like that, and people are like, oh, well, we can't deport these people. That's sad, and it makes me feel bad. And so then they're hoping that the argument becomes, well, we need to allow these people to stay, and then they promote an amnesty program and allow them to become citizens, and then you have a significant increase in the voter base, which is likely to be largely Democrat. We were talking this morning. when you have people from the third world come in, the way that their societies are structured and the things that they expect from their government is different. In the Somali community in Minnesota, there was a lot of people that expected, if they vote for the Democrat or the person that they vote for, they expect that person to literally shield them from the law. And there was a guy in Maine that's a Somali guy. He was on camera talking to his representative saying, look, we voted for you. You have to protect us from this stuff. And he didn't mean, to try to change the law. He meant literally to interpose himself between the law and the community that voted for him. You should protect us. We should be allowed to break the law, and you protect us because we voted for you. That's totally a foreign concept in a country like the United States where, look, you can play by the rules, but the law is the same for everybody. And the notion that this person was trying to get across is, if we vote for you, then we should be above the law because you should protect us. And that's something that does matter. Like how the people conceive of their relationship with the government and with their representatives matters. And the people that are brought here from different cultures look at government in a different way than we do. And some ways is totally foreign to the way that we do. And it doesn't mesh.
It also kind of underlines just how much the Overton window has switched in a lot of ways, where it depends on how much of a romantic view you've carried about immigration in the past. A great part of the American story was the idea that the people that wanted to get here, that really did believe in what America stood for, could do so, integrate into the community, assimilate to the values that Americans had. And to most of us, depending on how far you are along the line now, that was a beautiful thing. And it was something that a lot of Americans supported, and a lot of them still do. And they come up against this idea of people who have crossed the border illegally. They are now part of your community, and they are taxed with the idea that they have to be harsh and say, look, this isn't the way. This isn't how community, this isn't how we build upon the empire that we have here. We have to make changes. And you're held to account to say, like, if you don't come to the same conclusion we do, which is that anybody can come in no matter what, you are a bad person, because they're expecting you to look at somebody in the face and say, this guy who lives next door to you, you're saying he has to go, right? It's not a fair position to put them in, but it's also not a fair, you were put in that position by them. And like we were saying earlier, depending on who your elected officials are, the idea of empathy goes a long way in a lot of these voting blocks.
Part of this really the gross or the sad part about this situation is that a lot of those people were told to come here by the guy who became president. So like, it's not like a bunch of people just came in under somebody's watch and snuck in and were like, oh, now they're here, we got to get them out. I think there'd be a lot more people on board like, hey, that can't happen. They were invited by the guy that was the president. So like,
that's a portion of it too, but there's also a lot that they crossed. It wasn't even about asylum or anything like that. They came across multiple borders to get here. Yeah. They wanted to be here. Yep. They didn't want to be in Mexico. They wanted to come all the way here because America allows them more economic opportunities. And to criticize Trump, as we should, they didn't do enough about the factory farms. They didn't punish any of the companies that were incentivized to hire these people because they know that they'll face a slap on the wrist and maybe some fines, and that person gets deported. They don't suffer any penalties for that. The whole point of it was to import a legitimate slave class that, Republicans have paid lip service to deportations, but both parties benefit from.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the employing of illegals, that's one thing that I actually agree with Democrats on. Like, the DOJ should be going after businesses that employ people that are illegals. Like, if you hire people that are here, if you knowingly hire illegals, there should be some kind of consequences. There's part of me that thinks that you should lose your whole business if it's found that you've done it multiple times or whatever. First offense, it should be a fine that is big enough where it really affects your ability to run your
twice
business.
About it.
What was that?
So
yeah,
that
exactly.
You think twice about it.
Yeah. So that kind of policy would do something to change people, change the minds of people coming here. If they knew that they couldn't get work, if they knew that they couldn't rent an apartment or find some place to live, then they wouldn't come here. But they know that the government has all kinds of programs. They know that the government has all kinds of a support structure for illegals that honestly frequently aren't offered to regular Americans, to American citizens. And so there are even programs that the government has to help people that have come here illegally or people that are seeking asylum or whatever. HHS has a program called I forget the name of the program, but they had a program where they were basically shipping people around the country to do basically the whole trying to turn. It essentially boiled down to turning
those the flights, right? We when they were like exposing people being put on flights. We were paying for it.
It was the refugee resettlement program. So you'd come here, ostensibly as a refugee, and they would give you a flight to somewhere in the country. And what it turned into was they were flying people to red places in order to try to turn them purple. To try and affect the outcomes of elections.
It was also a problem with the messaging. Like when they were making the deportation videos, right? They're making hype reels that are basically red meat for the base. Yep. But the problem is like there is a large part of your voting demographic now, especially with a big tent policy, is there are people there that want those deportations, but it's hold their nose and see it done because they wouldn't have the heart to do it themselves, which is, of course, the point, like you were saying, of bringing people in was to make it harder for you to see a person have to be removed from the country because you've turned them into a person. They're no longer somebody who came here illegally. They're a human being. Yeah. And unfortunately, it is the government's job to look at them as somebody that needs to be deported, not as the individual. So a lot of that messaging, I felt like ended up turning a lot of people away from it because a lot of the people in the middle saw those videos and they're like, you're making light of it. I get it. Like, it's funny, whatever, but you lose people. And if the point here is to build your political capital, not spend your political capital, I don't think that was the right thing.
Right, but I kind of like the hyper-reals personally.
You really got to see Sin Frontera, man, because, like, that film 6'7" Kevin made kind of goes into, like, what happened to make all of these, everyone come here and how messed up it is. So maybe, I don't know. Shout out to Sin Frontera.
Where is it on Rumble?
It's on Rumble. Yeah, I think it's on Rumble.
The videos that KRISTI Noem was overseeing getting pumped out that you're talking about, Brett, these propaganda videos, I agree. I was disgusted. And they used Theo Von without his consent. And he was going, heard you're getting deported. Bye. It was like a joke he said to somebody outside after a show. And now 100 million people or whatever, 50 million people saw it. And he said he was getting death threats. I'm like, bro, you just burned your bridge with me because he had Donald Trump on his show like 4 weeks before the election and basically handed him the election with that publicity and his seal of approval as a comedian, and him and Rogan together, it was shocking. The tone-deaf nature of that video was shocking.
I just thought some of them were cringe. They did one where like the DHS head was like Batman, and I'm like, bro, I think that one was made while they were on while the government was shut down. I'm like, who's the editor that's like working while the government is shut down to make all this stuff? To the point about the podcasters, that's a hard one because he has since lost a lot of those podcasters that kind of helped him get elected, like the Andrew Schultzes and stuff like that. Yeah. But he also can't change his business plan just because they might not have understood what he actually wanted to do. He was open and honest about what he wanted to do. A lot of people just weren't willing to look at what it was going to look like to do mass deportations.
He was very clear during the entire campaign that deportations were going to happen. In fact, he was so clear that the people on the right, or the more America First right, they don't think that he's done enough. Mm-hmm. So if he's lost people that were watching, the Theo Von show or watching Joe Rogan, that's because they didn't understand what he was actually, offering, or what he was saying he was going to do. Donald Trump hasn't been as extreme as the people on the far right that voted for him wanted him to. So the idea that he should do less, I think that would have actually lost him more in the long run.
A question for you. Anybody who's who wants to answer and really has been, I guess, alive longer than me can tell me if this is perhaps true. Because of the internet, because of the speed in which information moves now. And I the other week, I think I was telling you about it. I was talking about, I woke up one day and it's like everybody's a single issue voter now. Yeah. The Maha people are mad about glyphosate, and the anti-Israel people are mad because of Iran, and everybody's
mad because Israel. But yeah,
you get the point. Everybody's mad about something and saying this is it. They're going to lose the midterms. They're going to lose all this stuff. Are we kind of entering? Is it possible that information is moving so fast now and public opinion changes so fast now that we're out of the age of two-term presidents, back-to-back terms?
I don't know. Maybe it could be.
It feels like one of those things where people will sour so fast on someone because of the speed in which we can get our information now.
There's a fight going on in both the parties as to whether or not you're going to be more further to the left or further to the right. The Democrat Party obviously moved significantly further to the left. You got people like Ro Khanna, postulating or bringing up the idea of a wealth tax on property that you own. So like you literally have to pay a tax on your net worth, which is a horrible idea. There'll be massive capital flight. And you got
California's doing that, or is trying to do that as well.
Yeah, and they've I think
state.
I saw I think I talked to my AI about this, and you're looking at like 10 billionaires leave and the math doesn't work anymore. Like that's all it takes.
They want to tax them after they leave too.
Well, yeah, right now that's extremely unconstitutional. There's a lot of things that cover that because I brought it up. I was looking at my AI. I was like, well, what if this happens? But there's multiple statutes in the Constitution that prevent that. But if it happens nationally, there is an exit tax that the federal government has a right to.
Oh, you mean someone leaves the country?
If someone says, I want to renounce my citizenship, you have to pay an exit tax. So what are people?
Yeah, it's like 50% or something.
Yeah, it's huge. It's punitive. It's punitive. It's huge.
For how long after you leave the country?
Well, to renounce your citizenship, you have to pay 50% of your net worth. Because essentially the argument is you made this money by being here in the United States, so you have to pay. And again, it's not just 50% of the money you made last year. It's 50% of your net worth. How would someone like Elon Musk do that when he's got, his money's tied up in businesses? As much as there's stock that he has, he owns all of the rockets that SpaceX owns. He owns all of the satellites. How do you liquidate satellites? What process do you do to do that?
Does that mean I get 50% of one Tesla? Like,
yeah, you get half a car.
Yeah,
you get the front half though.
I don't know enough about business to really know, but I would think you would start like a company that you would run at a loss on purpose and make it lose you $50 billion, and then you're like, see, I'm not worth so much, right?
That's
right?
Hollywood. That's Hollywood math right there.
Yeah,
that's Hollywood math.
Yeah. But again, these types of policies are popular on the left now. The idea that a senator, I think Bernie Sanders is on, of course Bernie Sanders is on board with it, but that kind of idea used to be so just outside of the Overton window. And people on the right, they are getting a little more extreme. The idea that you can say, hey, we want to deport all illegals. Right? We don't want amnesty. We want to get rid of people that are here illegally. That's a little further right than was acceptable, say 5-10 years ago.
Well, I mean, even how often does immigration and deportations come up and they find the old videos of Obama saying like, you can't just come here. You can't just come here and expect to exist, right? You're gonna have to pay the piper if you want to do that. We're gonna either send you back or whatever's gonna happen. Like those views aren't all that different for most of us, but most people have memory hold it so fast that they don't realize how much things have changed. Like it wasn't a border wall; it was a border fence that they talked about back then. So, like for me specifically, as somebody who still considers himself to have quite a few fairly liberal positions. Economically, I don't look at the right as if they like small government anymore anyways. Yeah. Trump loves to spend money. They love to build the deficit. So
that's something that's actually more popular on the right as well. Like the idea of, the libertarian right is a shrinking portion of the electorate now. I mean, they were never all that big in particular, but they really have kind of dwindled down in numbers. There's not a lot of people that are like, oh, let's really, really constrain the government. There are a lot more people nowadays that are like, all right, we're right wing, but we want to use the government to enforce our policies and to push our agenda. And to be honest with you, as much as I used to be a libertarian, I think that because of the world that we live in, you have to use the power that you're given when you're elected, right? The voting population votes. They don't vote for you to just not do anything. They don't vote for you to just stop the Democrats. They vote for you to do things and deliver for them. I don't think that when it comes to the right, they're looking for policies that would be considered handouts or government programs. But I do think they want to see the government exercise power that they have in favor of policies that they like.
I think to your earlier question about are people so one issue minded that it would be hard to even have a two-term presidency. I think we are in something unique in history, which is America as a country has gone through a period of incredible disillusionment. For example, freedom of speech, right? When I was growing up until 2020, freedom of speech was seen as sacrosanct. And then suddenly everybody's getting canceled for speech crimes. And most of those crimes that you're getting canceled for was actually being accurate about the truth and the science and about the pandemic, right? And so ultimately, and that's just piled on, right? And now it used to be like real conspiracy theory land to think that RFK Jr. was, John F. Kennedy was assassinated by like a conspiratorial plot. And now we're like, yeah, it looks like it was our intelligence agencies, right? And that's mainstream. And so what's happening is we're becoming disillusioned over one thing after another, so that the institutions that were seen to be trustworthy, like the USDA, when I was in 6th grade, I mean, we'd see films about how the USDA had come and made our food supply safe. And there was a huge level of trust I think Americans had in our institutions that has really been shattered over the last 5 to 6 years. And people are now figuring out, how do we really arrive at the truth and move forward? And so the good thing about that is we're so much more aware. And we're very aware now on issues of big pharma and the stuff that I'm focused on really medical science, misinformation and false science put out in order to advance the interests of really big corporate interests that are putting out products that are harmful to people. But so the awakening has been very important, but I think the flip side of it is that we can become too simplistic in jumping to our conclusions, right? We can, like glyphosate. One of the best articles written explaining what went on with Trump's executive order on glyphosate was written by a woman, Dr. Sherry Tenpenny. Okay, now Dr. Sherry Tenpenny has been at the forefront of MAHA, at the forefront of warning about all of the things that seemed like conspiracy theories at first that turned out to be totally true. And she's able to do that because of her medical expertise. So when she comes out saying, hey, MAHA, don't get bent out of shape over this. This is more complex because of our dependency on glyphosate, right? We don't just, this is we're in a fix now that we got to slowly extract from, right? So, but I really appreciate that kind of nuanced analysis, because these things are more complex.
I feel like that with the Epstein stuff. Like, whereas with glyphosate, if we just flat out removed it from the supply overnight, we'd probably have to see a famine, perhaps starvation. Maybe she's concerned with that disruption. Same thing with Epstein. I feel like if it was released and you really knew what was going on, global order could shatter. Alliances would break, missiles would fly. You told her that what to me, and I'm a billionaire. How dare now I'm and like. It's you gotta the systems, think in terms of systems as opposed to points within it.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna jump to this story from Fox News. Okay. God is non-binary. Texas Dem nominee Tallarico's past remarks on abortion, race, and gender draw scrutiny. If you have gone to his X page and looked at anything 2020 or previous, it is a treasure trove of basically memeable stuff. From Fox News, while running as a moderate with bipartisan appeal, Texas State Rep. James Tallarico, who defeated Rep. Jasmine Crockett for the Democratic Senate nomination, has a history of making controversial statements on matters of race, religion, gender, border security, and beyond. With Tallarico in the national spotlight for the first time, many commentators and strategists are resurfacing some of his past remarks. Among them is a 2021 video of Tallarico at the Texas House floor in Austin opposing a bill to ban men from women's sports and claiming that God is non-binary. God is both masculine and feminine and everything in between. God is non-binary, said Tallarico, adding, trans children are God's children made in God's own image. A self-identified Presbyterian seminarian, Tallarico cast many of his political stances in the Christian and biblical language. However, while speaking on a January episode of The Ezra Klein Show, Tallarico appeared to equate Christianity with other religions, including Hinduism and Islam. I believe that Jesus Christ reveals that reality to us, but I also believe that other traditions reveal that reality in their own ways, with their own simple structures. And I've learned more about my tradition by learning more about Buddhism, Hinduism, and Islam, and Judaism. And so I see these beautiful faith traditions as circling the same truth about the universe, about the cosmos, he said.
He's not a Christian.
Yeah, I don't
Is this
think
some sort of like religious relativism.
Yeah, it is definitely relative.
I identify with it. I'm agnostic generally. I enjoy like good things from different cultures and religions and faith, but that I would never call myself a Christian. I mean, what a debasement and devaluation of the religion to claim that I am if I don't truly believe it.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can have your own opinion on religion. You can have your own opinion on other religions. You can have your own type of understanding of spirituality and stuff. But if you're going to call yourself a Presbyterian, you probably should, take the tenets of that religion seriously. Otherwise, you're just not serious about religion, which again is fine. But when you try to pass yourself off as a Presbyterian minister, I think they said he was.
Oh, is he actually? So he actually practices?
I think so.
I always
he's a
wonder,
seminary.
I tend to be, unless you are somebody who is deeply into your religion, politicians being religious always feels a lot of time as if it's something that they put on as part of their voter demographic, depending on their party and stuff like that.
Yeah, so a seminarian means that he's gone to school about it. He's supposed to have an understanding of the theology.
He's got to be wrong, because I was reliably told by Ariana Grande that God was a woman. So
you were? She might be right about that.
She might be right.
But you could be two things could contradict and both be true when it comes to the spirit realm. It's wild.
Yeah, I mean,
it definitely can't be Presbyterian and also Hinduist.
Yeah, I mean, these things are there are things in certain religions that are exclusionary of other religions. Like, you can't be a Christian and say, oh, the Hindus got some stuff right when it comes to spirituality. Like the basic tenet of being a Christian, whatever your denomination is, you believe that Christ is the Son of God and that he died and was resurrected, and that was like the payment for sin. That's how human beings. That all human beings are fallible, all man sins, and Christ paid the ultimate price for your sins, right? If you don't believe that, or you believe something in addition to that or whatever, you're not actually a Christian.
I will counter a little bit, because I think that Christianity in the beginning was an amalgamation of different beliefs, like different stories, and then they created a unified story. So like we could do that with all the religions of earth to create a new religion.
You are welcome to believe that, but Christians don't.
Well, they compiled a bunch of books, and I'm not a theologian.
Like I said, I mean,
particular thing.
The only point that I'm making, like I said earlier, like people can have their different opinions on religion, but if you call yourself a Christian, that's what you're saying. You're saying, I believe these things, and I don't believe these other things. They are exclusionary. So you can have whatever belief you want. And I'm not trying to say that you shouldn't. But what I am saying is that you no longer are Christian once you add these other things into it. You become something else, because there are religions that are exclusionary. If you are a Muslim, you believe that Muhammad is God's last prophet. If you add anything else to it, you are no longer an actual Muslim. You don't believe in Islam. You believe that Muhammad was the perfect man, and the things that Muhammad said were actually true. And if you say, well, Muhammad was wrong on something, well, then you're not actually a Muslim. You believe something other than Islam. And that is an exclusive ideology. Anything else means that you don't believe that thing.
The most depressing part about politics is it turns existential and theological discussions into a total bummer. Because this isn't my wheelhouse, but I know that this dude is this is the worst of the worst when it comes to having to have these discussions, right? Because it's like, I can listen to what he has to say, know that he's ideologically captured. If he doesn't believe it himself, he's ideologically captured by whoever his potential voting base is. Yeah. I don't know if he's at a women's summit in that photo, but it's all women behind him in that photo. And it really does turn these types of discussions, which 15 years ago with your friends might have been interesting. Now it's all a basis of finding political power. Yeah. That's just a bummer.
And I mean, that's really where these kind of debates belong, right? They belong, they're theological debates, and you can have theological debates with your friends. You can talk about that, amongst yourselves, or, you can go to, you can debate philosophy and stuff. But when you're taking an established religion and wearing it like a skin suit and saying, oh, well, I kind of believe these things, but in front of this crowd, I'm going to say things like God is non-binary, which is completely not true, right? Like the idea of God being non-binary, God is pretty clear about what God is. Just because God made women doesn't mean God is a woman, or God is both. Like, that's
you're wrong. Ariana Grande, she said.
Exactly. God is a woman. But yeah, like these religions have a serious history, and they have an understanding of themselves that Tallarico is just basically using in a way to attract votes.
For the record, he earned his Master of Divinity degree from Austin Presbyterian Theological Seminary.
Yeah.
So he is a Master of Divinity.
He's the one, if I remember correctly.
He is the master of divinity. That's right.
He's the one, if I remember correctly, that was involved in like on late night TV, and they didn't give Jasmine Crockett the same amount of time, so there was a segment pulled.
Yep.
He's the guy that got it over Crockett.
And now Jasmine Crockett's blaming Republicans for cheating. So literally, there's an equal time rule where if he gets time on one of the night shows, Jasmine Crockett is supposed to get an equal amount of time. She didn't get that time, and now she's decided she's going to blame Republicans for the cheating, even though it was clear that it was Tallarico and I think it was Jimmy Kimmel.
Colbert. Tallarico and Colbert. Yeah, they kind of colluded to make it seem like, oh, look, Trump's out to get this interview. We couldn't even show it on TV, so we have to give it to you on YouTube. So it bypasses all the FCC rules. FCC.
They also haven't they haven't enforced those rules in ages.
Yeah, and look, Jasmine Crockett was kind of a clown show, anyways. Her first video ad when she announced her campaign was just her like in the center of a room and kind of spinning, and like it was interposed with all these clips of Donald Trump just saying that she's low IQ. Like that is the worst advertisement that I could possibly imagine. It's like, oh, Donald Trump says you're low IQ. Donald Trump says you're low IQ. Just over and over. The current president of the United States calling you a dummy, and you think that is a good advertisement. What you're doing is proving that the president is right.
Yeah. I'm doing a quick look too here at the focus and the emphases of the seminary here, according to ChatGPT. And so what we're finding is Austin Presbyterian Theological Seminary, it's described here as emphasizing ministers who are preparing to engage in justice, inclusion, and community service. So a big social justice emphasis and inclusivity, affirming stance on LGBTQ and inclusion, and ordination, right? So we're talking about, bringing in that group into actually ordained pastoral roles and supporting the full participation of this community in church leadership, right? And then interfaith engagement, like we saw with the Hinduism and all that. So this would really represent, it's kind of interesting. Actually, I went to seminary. I've got a master's in the history of Christian thought from Trinity Evangelical Divinity School. And one of the things I was very interested in were the movements in the early 20th century among the liberal theological liberalizers, right? And it's really very much like what we're seeing today, and this is a manifestation of it, of wanting to drop all the things that might be, say, offensive about the religion, or maybe offensive to some modern views of science. It's really interesting where things have gone on that, because people are much more open to the ideas of the supernatural and miracles and things today than they were just 30, 40 years ago. But when you go back, you see how they were trying to adapt to those trends in their society, and to say, well, let's get away from the idea of miracles. Was Jesus really born of a virgin birth? Did he really walk on water? All these things, these are myths and stuff. And then what you do instead is you focus on things like social justice or the good things that the religion can do, because you no longer really have any more actual historical or symbolic content, right? And so I think this is what we're seeing here with Tallarico, is that that's just an extension of that. And so now we have full DEI in religion. And just as we were looking at it in video gaming or film or everything else, it's not appealing to very many people. Yeah. And this is exactly what happened with the mainstream denominations, is the more they went this direction, the more they lost interest, because either Christianity is true or it's not.
Yeah. So are they trying to justify faith kind of using science because they don't believe it anymore, and now they're coming up with like these different various DEI type beat things to weave in there to kind of replace what they now think is like mythology?
Yes, if you go back to the 1920s, in particular, there was a movement because science showed that nature was just unbroken chain of cause and effect. There was a big move away that miracles could even be a real thing, right? God didn't intervene, right? And so, well, what do you do if you're going to try and be a Christian, but you no longer believe God intervenes, right? Well, the only thing you can push towards is, well, let's do good things in society. Let's be on this good cause or that good cause. And this, in a lot of ways, is an extension of that. And the connection there is with Presbyterian Church USA, which was a very big part of that movement at that period of time.
Why do you think it is that people are more open to the supernatural and miracles now than they were before?
Wow, that's a great question. I think it's for a number of reasons. For one thing, I actually think the broader easier access of communication that we have. I mean, there's much more open discussion, and so it's much easier just to talk about taboo subjects, right? Whereas before, if you go back to the 1980s, just people didn't talk about these things. Even in, say, like a church Bible study, if you were reading a passage where Jesus heals, it'd be some brave person to say, hey, who's had answers to healing, a prayer for healing? And then suddenly all these people would start talking about it. But even in church settings, they didn't always feel comfortable talking about some things sometimes because they felt like this is really out there. It's very marginal, right? And that just goes to show about how common cultural values really start shaping what people feel free to talk about. I also think going back to, there's a fantastic video of a presentation at Oxford by a scholar named Craig Keener. And he did a 2-volume series back in 2014. And this, I think, really does get to your question. So 2014 was a turning point when scholarship in universities in certain niche fields like science and religion started saying, is there more to the reports of miracles than we've been given credit coming from our scientific background? And so Craig Keener at Oxford in 2014 gives this incredible synopsis of what he had found it was at the Ian Ramsey Center, and anybody can Google it. It's an hour of amazing documentation where he went around the world because his wife's African, and he said, their family had stories of miracles that were just mind blowing. And so he wanted to see, he's a New Testament scholar, so he wanted to learn more about this, and he really went around the world gathering like scientific level quality testimonies of actual miracles. And so then that led following to Eric Metaxas picked up on that and wrote a fantastic book called Miracles. And I think it's really grown since then. There's been some high-powered academics in this field. Candace Brown, I think she's at the University of Indiana, took this subject up, and they took it up seriously, right? To say, what are people really reporting in their experience of answered prayer? And now we've seen things like a person like Lee Strobel appearing on Tucker Carlson's show. I mean, it's gone really, that momentum has really moved where people are asking these questions openly.
What I was thinking about systems, I mentioned systems earlier. Like people are like, if we get rid of glyphosate, it'll fix. How come my cause isn't creating the effect I expect? Miracles can't happen because but you realize like systems, we're in a larger system than we can perceive. And there may be a cause outside of human perception or unmeasurable with current tools. That's prayer may be doing. I mean, that's my personal take on it, that it very much the interconnected nature of the fabric of reality is apparent at this point. I mean, if you study space-time and you've watched Nassim Haramehn's stuff on the source child proton, you know that we're in this like web of density that's interconnected, interfering with itself at the speed of light, transmitting information. So I'm all on board. But I didn't learn that until internet video. Before internet video, I was very skeptical about all of it until I saw some evidence of like, what the bleep do we know? Remember that kind of like cheesy documentary that came out about quantum? It was quantum physics. Yeah. That was my first answer to your question, Brett. This is my take on it. Why are people more open to the supernatural? Because quantum physics. And then the mainstreaming of quantum physics in 2007 through the internet video and all the thousands of people now talking about prayer, but their own version of it. Well, it's an exciting time to be alive.
I mean, it's a great point. When you go from a worldview where you just think everything's like a mechanistic system, which goes back to the philosopher Descartes, right? But the idea is everything's a mechanistic system and there's no room for anything but the gears, right? And then you switch from that to understanding quantum physics, and now you have a very believable, I'm going to say, platform through which a omniscient, omnipotent being could very easily interact and engage our universe.
Yep. So, all right, we're going to jump to Super Chats right now. So smash the like button, share the show with everybody you know, share it with all your friends. Head on over to rumble.com because in about 20 minutes, we're going to be doing the Rumble after show where we can talk about some things there. We intend to talk about some things there that we cannot talk about on YouTube. And then head on over to timcast.com. You can join the Discord where you can call into the after show, ask the panel or our guest questions. Maybe you'll find a girlfriend or a boyfriend, maybe have kids, because that's happened a bunch of times over there. But right now, we're going to head to your Super Chats. So let's get right into them. Let's see here. I'm going to make this a little bigger.
Enlarging it.
Yeah, enlarging it. Hi, Tim. You made, let's see, what's that? Dorsey is 79 says, hi, Tim. You made cameos in Skybrow's videos with your fake band, The Shadow Band, in Million Amelias, Joe's Rogaine, Homestone 2, and NVIDIA F You Up, yeah. I'll be watching these at 4 a.m. before work. Good night, everyone. Yeah, those are really cool. The AI videos that are created with, and I think the songs themselves are actually AI as well. But he's pretty talented. He knows how to prompt an AI, definitely. So, Wolf374171 says, I don't remember anyone calling for Noem to be fired, but okay, I guess. How about an actual problem named Bondi? Yeah. I think that's a very popular take. People would like to see Pam Bondi taken out. But again, I think that it comes back to the situation of who is actually going to get confirmed by the Senate. There's a lot of people say, we got to fire this person. We got to fire this person because they're not producing the results we want and we like. And whereas I agree with the sentiment, they're not producing the results that we were looking for. It also has to be a person replacing them that will realistically get confirmed by the Senate. And considering there's a boatload of appointments that still haven't been confirmed, I don't know that there are a lot of people on a list of people that would actually be able to get the job that we get approved by the Senate.
Maybe he'll just challenge all of them to a fight, and if he beats all of them, he gets confirmed.
I mean, it would be cool, wouldn't it?
It'd be awesome.
It'd be far more interesting than sitting there watching them, pontificate to get clips for YouTube or whatever.
I just love that he had the tweets on a big sheet of paper.
Yeah.
When he when they were threatening each other, he's like, actually, for a second, you said this.
He's why are you following me, bro?
In your follow-up tweet.
Yeah. S. Guest says, per tradition, I'm watching from the hospital after my wife gave birth to our third child, a baby girl. Congratulations. Yeah. Love to hear it. We need more babies. Let's see. That one gamer says, Phil's being too nice to Pam Bondi. Her behavior at the hearing was atrocious. She made the whole admin look bad. Look, you can be totally right about that, but what I said about getting someone to replace her is still true. I know people hate to think about how the sausage is made in Washington, right? Everybody likes to say, just do this, just do that. But there are so many processes and procedures that have to be gone through when you're doing anything in D.C. This is part of why people get so frustrated with D.C., part of why things happen so slowly, because there is a process and a procedure for basically everything that happens in D.C. And all of them are designed to slow things down. Nobody wants DC moving fast because then you'll end up having changes that are detrimental and they won't be well thought through. The House is only 2 years for a reason because the population will have their opinions will sway depending on what's going on. So you have the House to represent the people. They only get 2 years, but the Senate is 6 years, and that's supposed to be more deliberative. And that was part of the design. The federal government isn't supposed to do all the crap that it does. And so I get, when you're starting to pull stuff out, you want it to happen fast so that way we can get rid of all the bureaucracy and stuff. And I agree completely, but it doesn't change the fact that the way that the federal government is structured is intended to move slow because it's not supposed to be able to do 90% of the stuff that it does.
It also feels like that's all kind of gone out the window because the Supreme Court is very much politicized now in a way that it never was before, or at least that it shouldn't have been before, right? Yep. When we got our last cat that we bought from this lady, she's she had tons of cats that she kept and helped or whatever. She wasn't I think she was a business owner or whatever, but she had a sticker on the back of her car that said "Pack the courts."
Yeah. And that, for people that are unfamiliar, that means expand the court and put more people on that agree with you. Mm-hmm. And I mean, if you do that, you're going to end up with a 20-person court. And it's going to be just another political tool. And there are people that are going to say, well, Thomas is so conservative and he's ideologically motivated. And there are people that are going to say, well, Jackson is so politically motivated and et cetera, et cetera. And it's yeah, that's the truth. But this is the system that we got. And just adding people to the court isn't going to fix anything because when the other team gets in power, they're just going to go ahead and add more people, and it's just going to be a never-ending, expansion of the court, and then it'll be a situation where the court doesn't have any authority or nobody trusts it as it is. So, let's see from Michelle Moon, or wait a minute, from Rainbow to you. Check out Chris Webby's Raw Thoughts 6 or 7. It's fire. Okay, we'll check that out. Chris Webby's raw thoughts. Let's see. Everybody, welcome my first son Monty, born in an ambulance and ready to listen to Timcast. All right. Case in point.
Is it short for Montalban? I'm just wondering.
Monty?
Yeah, Monty.
What is that? Like, is it Montalban or
I don't know if
Montgomery?
It's short for Montgomery.
Montgomery. I think it's Montgomery.
Monty. Let's look at it.
I feel like I have to say this also. Before Tim left, he did put up a poll that says if we don't get 50 teal super chats, Ian will sing. So
Oh,
we have 21 out of 50.
You really pinned me to the wall on that one.
I kind of did. I was hesitant to bring it up, but people have been saying,
it's sad because people want to hear me sing, and
I
now
know.
they feel like they can't
So
super chat. You can still super chat.
If you get 50, he won't sing?
That's what they say.
Well, actually,
Too confusing.
yeah. Or else
Wouldn't it
Ian
just? You
will
should have just
sing.
said don't super chat. Oh no, he's banking on the fact that you hate me. You got to prove him wrong. So
That's exactly right.
So don't super chat. But that's no super chat. See, I'm selfless. Super chat. I'll
Michelle
take the night
Moon
off.
says, I like when he sings, but not when he takes the debate off topic constantly. You get a little bit of love and a little bit of criticism.
I do the weave. Okay, I'm gonna defend I'm like Trump, bro. I will change the topic slightly, tangent out, wrap around, come back in, and then bring it back to what we're talking about. But if I get cut off partway through, it just seems like I'm making no sense. So a lot of times this show moves so fast that my long ideas get snapped or
Let's start a show called Derailed, where the whole point is to get as far away from the topic as possible.
Yeah, just start with one thing.
That's what I want. Like the whole point for me is like I like the idea of like the initial thought, and then because my brain is so messy, I just want to go wherever my brain goes.
I actually think derailed is a good idea.
What if it's called re-railed? too esoteric? We should stick with derailed. That's the hot term.
There you go. Let's see. KS Corey says, mutual combat in Congress. We can charge to view and put it towards our debt. I mean, I like the idea. I know that if you give money to Congress, they're not going to put it towards the debt, though. Yep. They're going to, put it into the slush fund that they use to protect their criminal activities.
And give themselves a raise.
Yeah, which is a real thing, by the way. They have a slush fund that they use to defend themselves from, like, sexual allegations and stuff. Look it up, I promise. Peter Gohawk says, there's no mutual combat law in Washington, D.C., but we all know America wants to see it. Throw it on pay-per-view and help the homeless that want help.
We don't need pay-per-view. Trump is close with the Ellisons. The Ellisons have Paramount. Paramount has the UFC. We will get this branded, and we will put that out there for the American people. American Fight Night.
I bet that what's his name? The guy that runs the UFC would be into it.
Dana White?
Yeah, Dana White. He'd be down.
Love it.
Not a bot says the liberals see orcs and say, "Yup, that's a black person. They did it in D&D too." Yeah, I mean that is kind of the way that they kind of behave. They say, "Oh, look, the people that created this are so racist. They're saying that these orcs are black people," and that's not the case.
Did you play D&D ever?
Mm-hmm. I did, yeah.
I never thought orcs were black people ever. For 20 years, I played that game and never even thought maybe that was a thing.
That's because you thought they were orcs.
Yeah, they're orcs.
Yeah.
They're orcs and they're dwarves. They're just fantasy creatures. I don't know.
It's one of those every accusation is a confession.
It is. So he's got it at that point. Let's see. Ian's got that jungle heat. Go get your chocolate princess. Bruce.
Yeah, man, we're all shaped differently.
He did say they were erotic.
Yeah.
I will not take that one back.
You let the cat out of the bag there, Ian. You got that.
Say again?
You let the cat out of the bag.
I ain't never been to Africa, but
You got that fever?
Oh yeah, dude. That yellow fever. Let's go.
No, it's not. That's a different.
Sail down the river, baby. Take me to the Nile.
That's a different fever. Let's see.
Moving on.
Wolf 374171. I don't even know why I said the numbers. If your response to the spicy group chat is anything other than "I want to get a beer with those guys," you're a joyless dork. I mean, look. Some of the stuff they said, you might not want to admit that you want to get a beer with them, considering, it was pretty uncouth. It was definitely stuff that you don't want people to know you said. So,
and some of those people could 110% mean that. Some of the other ones could just be, going along because that's the vibe of the room. I guess it depends on how joyless you are in the conversation you're having. Are you going to talk about it and laugh about the stupidity of it? Or are you going to talk about the expediency of getting caught saying stuff like that when you're trying to supposedly make things happen for your party?
Let's see. Mr. Juiceno says, Ian, my graphene stock is up 5,800%. $900 initial buy-in, worth $60K right now. You the man.
Dude, it's not. Thank Andreas Nicholas for telling me about graphene. Yeah, my graphene stocks are up. up, and it's just getting started as far as I can tell. 2029 is you're going to see peak graphene.
This is not financial advice, but you know.
It's just I've just noticed these graphene's coming. Graphene's huge, and graphene stocks are up.
There you go. Let's see. Core Ninja says, check out Different Breed TV. He covers Ukraine, and I served with him in the International Battalion Azov. Shout out to Vegas from your boys, Marcos. Oh, there you go. Azov Battalion members in Timcast chat. What do you know? What a Guy says, can't believe Trump fired Noem before Pam Bondi. She's such a wet. Okay. I think she is part of quid pro quo for Trump to receive campaign support. Boo. Look, I know that there's a lot of people that share your sentiment. Pam Bondi's left a lot of people with a bad taste in their mouth. They're not happy with her performance. But again, you can't get rid of her without having someone to replace her. And at this point, it doesn't look like it's going to be very easy for Trump to get confirmations for any of his appointments.
Now KRISTI Noem can dress up like an unemployed person instead of somebody with in Spec Ops.
Yeah, there you go. She can just like throw on like a muumuu or just wear sweatpants all the time. She can't go to the airport like that, though.
I heard that was a fake story about the Tampa airport pajamas.
Apparently, the Tampa airport likes to put troll posts out.
Wait, that was fake?
Yeah,
That's even better, honestly.
man.
I don't even, the fact that I got to defend my position on that for like 30 minutes for a fake story is kind of the greatest thing ever.
It may be fake, but it was true in my heart.
In my heart.
Yeah.
Well, you see the one today about how it was like United's now requiring you to put headphones in. You can't just play your freaking music.
That's another
as if
one
that shouldn't have been. And I said, like, look, I have to defend your right to wear sweatpants to the airport, but they just now make it a law that you have to wear your headphones.
Yeah, you definitely should not be walking around the airport with your music playing on your phone, and you shouldn't be talking on your phone like this, hollering.
Take the speakerphone off.
Take a page out of the Japanese people's book. Be very discreet. Be quiet when you're in public places. That's one of the numerous wonderful things about Japan. They're all very polite and very quiet. They're not trying to, be super loud and annoy everybody. Chain Swarm 3 says, WoW is made by woke women for woke women these days. The story is all about trauma and how hard having trauma is, and it's boring AF. Look, you want to have an adventure series that has adventure. You want to see, horror games be actually scary. And apparently the effort to make things palatable for everybody so that way you can make the most broad player base as you possibly can, that's watering it down, and it's actually not working, Wolfsbane 650 says, Saturday is my son's second birthday. Phil, could you sing happy birthday for him? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Wolfbane's son. Happy birthday to you.
Woo! Not copyrighted anymore either. You're allowed to.
There you go.
I believe you're allowed to sing.
Were we at 51? I mean, maybe Ian should have sung.
Yeah, maybe, Ian.
We're at 21
Grab the guitar.
right now.
No one has super chatted since
I know.
that went live. I love you. You love me. That's a really good sign.
KN92 says, it's because they have been pushing to expand their audience to include females, citing data that women are 48% of gamers. However, they are mobile gamers. The game companies want more money. Yeah, the whole women are 48% of gamers. That's because they're playing Candy Crush.
I don't even know if I necessarily believe that they're actually doing that for the sake of making more money. I think a lot of it is just being ideologically poisoned and willing to sacrifice. Because the people that are making these decisions are the middle managers, and they're basically browbeating the people in upper management who aren't listening to the actual fan base.
Yep.
Yeah. When I got married, my wife got just addicted to Candy Crush and running with friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't see her playing World of Warcraft.
No. I think that they've used that as an excuse. They say they managed to skew the numbers because they say all video games, Candy Crush and mobile games like that are among the video games. So they say, look, we should definitely allow diversity in this game because look at the women are 48% of mobile games, and look, that opens up our market so much more broadly. But the reality of the situation is women are not really generally sitting down to play Worlds of Warcraft or any of these other types of games.
Musicians ever do this? They ever go to focus groups and be like, we should change our sound to bring in the women folk?
I've never gone to a focus. We had a female bass player for 10 years, from 2005 until 2015. And she didn't want us to make a thing about it, and we didn't want to make a thing about it either. It was just like, she's the bass player, she's just another one of the people in the band, another one of the guys, and it was fine. We never made it like a thing.
Treat her as an equal.
Yeah, exactly. We treated her just like she was another member of the band because that was that was just how we looked at people. Like, we didn't think, oh, we have to get a girl bass player, so she's the girl in the band, and then we have to focus on the fact that she's the girl in the band. She was on, I think she was on 5 records with us, and it's like, that was just normal. Like, that was just the band. We never made it a thing. We didn't have to put out press releases and put her in, specific. She never wore a dress or anything. She was just like, another person, because we treated her equally. And I don't understand why modern society doesn't want to do that. Let's see. Texas Goliath says, old school RuneScape is supreme. I never played.
Shout out for that one. I played RuneScape. And $20 is like 4 months worth of memberships.
That's very cool.
When I played.
Let's see. Control WQ. I know what actually happened, and you could never believe me if I told you, but our world is about to change, radically change. NCSWIC. I don't know what any of that means, but thank you for the super chat. Here we go. Alexander says, keeping Timcast tradition alive, watching in the delivery room, just gave birth to a beautiful baby boy named Caspian. Cheers.
Awesome.
I think
there's so many. I'm starting to wonder if this is just becoming a thing. Where
I know your audience is reproducing.
I think he gave yen too. The Y with the 2 lines through it. I think that's yen. So over in Japan, that's cool.
Having more kids.
I'd have to add a clapping.
Like, when you get one where somebody's like, keeping with Timcast traditions, I'm here with the birth of my son Adolf, and then you'll know that it was fake.
Yeah, right. Oh, you get Deutschmarks, euros. Ian Pike Actual says, the answer to Warcraft for men is Warhammer 40K, which Warcraft was based on. If you're looking for unadulterated masculinity with chainsaw swords, check it out. That is one of the things that we were talking about, or me and Brett were talking about earlier today on Pop Culture Crisis. Like, you can't really feminize Warhammer because everybody in Warhammer is a fascist. Like, the good guys are fascist, the bad guys are fascist. They're all like militant and they're all racist, and like that's just the whole thing. You can't jump in there and be like, we're gonna make it nice Warhammer. It's all just brutal and chopping people up with chainsaws and stuff.
So when toxic masculinity is the point of the game, then it's hard. It's hard to offer.
Yeah, exactly. Andre123 says, more Canadian shenanigans since Phil is hosting. Need help finding an FFL to save Canadian guns from destruction? Can still export. Would you rather find a new home for a CZ Bren 2 Mexican Force Ed SBR than see it crushed? I mean, look, I'm not up on the laws regarding international shipping of firearms, so I'm actually not gonna say anything about that. But if you do call an FFL in the United States, they might be more knowledgeable about me, depending on where you are. Maybe you are able to ship it out of the country, but I don't know, and I'm not going to give you any kind of advice because that's a very, very dangerous subject, and a podcaster that doesn't have an FFL himself shouldn't be getting involved in it. But smash the like button, share the show with everyone you know. Whoa, boy. Head on over to rumble.com and join us because the after show is coming up in just a few. Head on over to timcast.com and become a member for the Discord. Would you like to shout anything out or like to tell people they can find you on X or the internet?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to follow us on X, go to @safe_blood3. That's a real way to keep up on what we're doing and the information that we think is really important to people, helping to flourish here in the future. We are on Substack too. We're getting a broader issue. So the safeblood.substack.com. And of course, check out our site, please, safeblood.com.
Thank you, Clint. Appreciate it.
Guys, if you want to follow me, I am on Instagram and on X @BrettDasovic on both of those platforms. Pop Culture Crisis is live 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is, of course, noon Pacific. We've just opened up channel memberships there on YouTube. I'm putting out more additional content. I did a full episode with Verbal Riot. We talked about DC Studios. We talked about Marvel, whether James Gunn might be leaving DC, going back to Marvel. If any of that stuff interests you, you should go over there, check out the channel, perhaps sign up for a membership, because we're going to be doing more stuff like that. But thanks for having me, guys.
I'll go first since Ian has grabbed a guitar to fulfill the prophecy that we have laid out here. I'm Carter
Did we
Banks.
get enough super chats for that? Or is
no, the thing is we did not get enough for Ian to not sing.
Okay.
So he must sing. This is Tim's wish. I'm Carter Banks. You can follow me at Carter Banks on Instagram and YouTube, at Carter Banks 4L on Instagram. Twitter is the other one. Follow our record label at Trash House Records on YouTube, and take it away, Ian.
You got it, man. This is an older one that I wrote. calling me still like a bad day. Going through hell, never need me. Till I run away, then you'll feed me. A placid mistake, and we'll give a little bit of your own weight. And you find another way, you find another way to me embrace. And you see me go, and you might need to know another way. Okay. Your friends slide back the door 'cause they're carefree. Or ignorant whores, they don't see that. They're driving me mad, letting monsters under the bed. And you're tugging at the sheets, pulling out the keys to lock them down. They'll be clawing up the legs, slamming everything that's left around. You're a master with words you sing. Get on back to your holes, they shrink away. And you see me another day, but birds and squirrels merely point you the way. See them paths there, lining up and climbing down. Well, run the race, 'cause clearly the time is now. Yeah.
Stick around for the Rumble After Show, everybody. We'll check out clips tomorrow. Tim will be back. We'll see you then.